It's either another case of overreaching government or just plain common sense, depending on which end of the barrel you're on. Last month, Attorney General Maura Healey jumped into those choppy waters when she cracked down on so-called replica assault weapons by clarifying that they're banned, according to her, under existing law in Massachusetts. She says gun manufacturers are making inconsequential design modifications to skirt the current definition of outlawed weapons. Hundreds of protesters had rallied outside the State House insisting that Healey had overstepped her authority and were infringing upon their constitutional rights.
This was no longer about guns. This was about civil rights. And this is about one government official abusing their power to turn hundreds of thousands of lawful people into felons in waiting.
Healey's faced a barrage of blistering criticism from around the country, some of it personal and ugly. One national gun owners group is threatening to file suit against her. Here in Massachusetts, the entire congressional delegation, as well as a number of mayors, have backed her action. The governor's position appears to be, shall we say, fluid. There has been some help from Hollywood. Sudbury native Chris Evans, otherwise known as Captain America, tweeted, "Not anti-gun, but certain weapons should only be in certain hands. I support @mass AGO enforcement of the assault weapons ban. Hashtag stand with Maura." And here I am sitting with Maura as the state's top law enforcement official. Joins me tonight. Attorney General, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Great to be with you, Jim.
So was I right? You contend you were doing nothing more than clarifying and essentially clarifying for people what the existing assault weapons ban mandates. Is that correct?
That's right. We're enforcing the law. That's one of the things we do in the Attorney General's office. And as the Attorney General, I have not only the authority, but the responsibility to enforce the law. And I'll tell you what happened here. After Orlando, which was the nation's largest mass shooting, deadliest as we know, I asked my team, I said, is that weapon available for purchase in Massachusetts? It was a question that many, including many in the media, had posed to me. Much to my surprise, here's what I learned. I learned that that kind of weapon is actually banned from sale under state law, but that these weapons were not only being marketed in Massachusetts, but had been sold in Massachusetts.
10,000 a year,
10,000
right?
last year. Post-Orlando, sales of these went up in Massachusetts by 450%. So we look at the law, we look at the words of the statute, and the statute is crystal clear on this. And so what we did, and what I did, is to send an enforcement notice out to gun dealers, to manufacturers that, look, you can't sell these kinds of weapons here in Massachusetts.
Were you surprised by the blowback? I don't just mean demonstrators. Yvonne Abraham wrote a piece, and I'll quote from it in the Globe. You received ugly tirades full of anti-gay slurs, misogyny, profanity, including the C word slung over and over. Callers shout obscenities and hurl names at the junior staffers who work in the AG's hotline. Were you surprised by that?
You know, in some respects, it comes with the territory.
Comes with the territory?
Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of ugly language and rhetoric around this issue. We've seen a lot of more tempered critique, and that is okay. I mean, it's okay to disagree, it's okay to critique, but there's no room in the discourse for that kind of language. To me, though, you know, I'm focused on enforcing the law, making clear to the public what the law is, and doing my job as Attorney General.
As part of this litany of things I just described?
We've received some threats, some threatening language.
What do you do about that? Do you follow them up?
You just do your job. You know,
No,
Jim,
I mean,
unfortunately, this is the nature of the world that we live in. It's the nature of elective office. I've got a great team, and you know, I go about my business and do my work. And do it to the best of my abilities as best I can. So, you know, you try to keep your eye on the ball and stay with what is the focus of the effort. And here, I have to say, I am very pleased with how this has gone, because I'll tell you, since we sent this notice out a few weeks ago, sales of these weapons, remember 10,000 of these weapons, militarized weapons, were sold last year in Massachusetts. They've virtually stopped here in Massachusetts.
Well, they sold a quarter as many in one day as they had sold in the whole prior year, though. I mean, that was pretty...
Which is the natural course of things. Anytime, look, sales of these go up whenever there's a mass shooting, and they also go up, everybody runs to the store when there's an announcement with respect to enforcement of laws around guns.
Are you going to prosecute people who bought them that day, the 20-some hundred, 2,000?
No, and we've been clear about that.
Just going forward?
This is about going forward. I can't worry about what was. I have to worry as Attorney General about what is, and taking action, concrete action, to make sure that in Massachusetts residents have the full protection of the law, and that's the notice that we've given. And the good news is sales of these have really virtually stopped.
You know, but from some what I consider to be surprising quarters, liberal State Senate President Rosenberg said there was not enough consultation with the legislature on your behalf. There wasn't enough transparency with the public on your behalf. Charlie Baker, who on day one seemed to be fully embracing this, a few days later said, well, there's some questions, just clarify that you're only going to enforce it going forward. And then his Secretary of Public Safety says there's a great deal of uncertainty as to which weapons you consider assault weapons. A large number of firearms, including pistols that have been sold legally for decades, may be unintentionally effective. It sounds like he was for it before he's against it.
Well, that's just wrong. It's quite clear, and we've made quite clear, we're not talking about handguns, we're not talking about antique guns, we're not talking about pistols. We are talking about assault rifles, and specifically ones that were designed for military use, designed for law enforcement, that have no business being in the hands of civilians. Remember, these guns are guns that were designed to kill as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. That's what the law banned back in 1998. We're just making clear to the public that we're going to enforce that.
And just so people are clear, while the federal assault weapons ban has expired, the state ban has not expired. Were you shaken personally by this? I know you're saying it's my job, it's my job. But when you're personally threatened, when the kinds of language personally that was directed at you, you're not shaken by this, Attorney General?
I don't like it. I don't welcome it. I don't love it. But you know, I have to respect the fact that there are inevitably going to be people that disagree with you, that particularly in the day of anonymity and what social media and anonymity provides, it's just something that goes with the territory. But I'll tell you what I'm very heartened by, Jim. I'm heartened by the hundreds of letters that I've received from residents across this state saying, thank you, this is where we need to be. The support of law enforcement, police chiefs, mayors, clergy, healthcare professionals, right, who are dealing with people on issues of gun safety and gun violence. This assault weapons enforcement is just a piece of what needs to happen when it comes to addressing issues of gun violence in our culture.
Well, can we talk about one of the things?
But this is something that we needed to do.
Some people have one of the big issues in law enforcement here and across the country, obviously, are body cameras on police officers. Today, the Commissioner of Boston, Bill Evans, was on Boston Public Radio, and I asked him why it's taken so long to get a program finally implemented here. Here he is.
Starting today. Officers are going to be assigned to them. We're hoping to put them into training next week.
Involuntarily, you're assigning 100?
Assigning 100 that have been randomly chosen by Anthony Braga, who's going to do the study. So we had no input to who was chosen. There's officers in there, you know, all ages, all races.
Attorney General, you did a debate at the Globe when you were running against Warren Tolman and you, and the Globe summary of that debate said both candidates were, quote, reluctant to endorse the use of body cameras on police officers. Are you still reluctant to endorse them?
God, Jim, I don't remember for the life of me that debate.
Well, forget that.
But I'll tell
Where
you what I
today?
think my position has always been on body cameras. I think that that kind of technology can be a real positive. I've supported departments who want to try out body cameras. I think that that kind of technology can be really invaluable, not only for assuring transparency, but also the safety of police officers
So
themselves.
you're in favor of it. Are you troubled by the fact that not one single police officer in Boston volunteered to be part of this program? Not one, zero.
I'm not going to comment about that. I don't know enough about the specifics of that, but what I do know is that body cameras are not the entire solution to what needs to happen, but they can be a positive step and a positive measure. There's a lot that comes with body cameras, how information gets stored, how you respect the privacy of victims or witnesses on scene. So there's a lot to think through and work through, which is why I think that programs and efforts to pilot and try this out and test what's working, maybe what doesn't work or what needs to be adjusted, is really great. And it's happened in other parts of the country, and I think you're starting to see it here and happen in Massachusetts, and I support that.
We're out of time, but quickly, as somebody who tried out for the Olympic squad, are you longing when you see women's basketball and you're not there? You are, aren't you? You are.
Oh, are you kidding? I mean, this is a whole different ball game. They're bigger,
So to
faster,
speak.
stronger, but the women are doing great. And you look at Allie and the gymnastics and the swimmers, and
You
you
could
know
have
the
been
Olympics.
somebody, Maura Healey. You know?
Woulda, coulda, too short, too slow,
good to
but
see you.
always a fan.